When all of time and space is threatened, one hero isn't enough, but many will answer the call. They are the legends of tomorrow. And who else is worthy to tell the tale but the podcast of tomorrow? Welcome, everyone. Of course, I am your host, Zachary Hare, and with me, as always, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which time stream we're in, Charlie Esser.
Yo.
Yes. So, of course, we're talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, or what they could call it, How I Learned to Love George Lucas.
I like to call it, we didn't like season one either.
Yeah, you mentioned that. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but okay. But, yeah. This was definitely okay. I gotta keep saying this. I'm gonna say this every probably episode of the season. Worst Legion of Doom ever.
Yeah, although I do like the fact that no one is calling them the Legion of Doom except for Captain Steel, I believe his name is.
Wait, was Ray still called? I forget if Ray accepted the.
Yeah. But
no, wait. Was it just him? Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah, and he makes the point, it's from an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon I used to like.
Oh, I groaned.
Yeah, it's like, really, really, kids? Oh,
Isn't that like a paradox or something? I'm like, so the Super Friends exist in the DC universe? What?
Well, to be fair, Green Arrow wasn't a part of it, so,
Yeah, but okay. Was anyone? Well, was Hawkman?
No. Hawkman, Flash, and Firestorm were all part of the Justice League in the Super Friends cartoons.
Yeah, I thought Firestorm. Yeah. Well, that's actually a shot against the show, because when a cartoon character from a '70s camp cartoon is more like the character than yours, something's wrong. Because that was actually Firestorm in the cartoon.
Well, for what it's worth, the writers don't care. And
no.
You may not have noticed this yet, Zach. And
I've noticed.
Yeah.
I have such a love-hate relationship with this show. I really do.
Yeah.
Actually, I have that with most of the CW in this, except for Supergirl. Supergirl's the only one I don't have that for. Really.
Yeah, well, as I understand, that's better written. That's got.
It is much better written, but sadly, that's why I keep trying to get on Krypton Report. But anyways, I do love aspects of the show. But next aspect is one I don't like. This is such a nitpick for me, but I have to say it. Now I'm fine with Vixen going, hey, wait a minute, these look like they go together. I'm fine with that, but the second she overlaps the picture, suddenly Steel leaps up and goes, it's like, it's not like they had to be turned or moved around. They just locked into each other. So I'm supposed to believe he wouldn't look at one piece and go, hey, you know what this looks like? He even said, I have scoured all history books and found nothing.
Well, and what's weird about that is, wouldn't he have at least found something that, like, well, this looks like half of it. Well, this looks like half of it too,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. It's called Designed in Stupidity. It helps the story, but it doesn't help the characters. And this series kind of runs on Designed in Stupidity. Not the least of which, I mean, even our Legion of Doom has Designed in Stupidity.
Oh God. God. Okay.
Well,
the thing I hate the most about this Legion of Doom is the fact that there is especially because this is not the Damien Dark with magical abilities, except for the fact that he has access, although they really aren't getting his immortality right. But other than that, there is literally no difference between these two men, Merlin and Dark. There isn't.
Well, except one's like younger, better looking, and relatively in shape. I am never intimidated.
Age, aren't they?
I'm sorry?
Aren't they the same age?
If they are, then, Gunther has really let himself go from the coffee house.
Oh, come on, Neil does not give. Oh, wow, that was come on, man.
I'm just saying, Damien Dark is not an intimidating looking person. He does not look like a guy who was in the League of Assassins.
Well, it's just weird because this actor, I'm a huge fan of his, and he can be intimidating. He can be a good bad guy, but he's not in this because his demeanor is just horrible. I've always hated this character ever since its inception because the way it's like, dude, stop being a jerk.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. I can see him as like the jerky Blofeld supervillain. I can see
that
him.
Doesn't fit with Dark Assassin.
Well, exactly.
You can't combine those two kind of villains.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's the guy with the 20 henchmen around him who says, Lola, you may kill him now. That's if you've ever seen Ice Pirates, you see that Bruce Vilanch can be a really intimidating supervillain when he's got.
I'm sorry, what?
Bruce Vilanch.
Bruce Vilanch was okay, now I got to see it just because you said that.
Yeah, Bruce Vilanch was, I believe he's like the King of Venus or something along those lines.
Is this a voice or a live action?
No, live action.
Live action and okay.
Bruce Vilanch as Caligula upon his throne, ordering people to be murdered, and he is delightfully scary.
Actually, let me give you a great example, and I'm going to try to do this real quick because I don't want to bore everyone here. But there's this one actor. He was the father. Well, technically, he's the father, but he was on. Did you ever see Raising Hope?
Yeah, of course.
Remember his father, like the guy who had the baby, his dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, that actor is usually playing like normal guys, but my introduction to him was from the TV show Life with Damian Lewis. He played this psychotic Russian gangster, and he was so scary. And then when I saw him on like Raising Hope and other stuff, I'm like, this is the same actor?
Well,
like, I've never seen that's example what I mean. Some actors can do both.
Well, look at Bryan Cranston.
I couldn't. Yeah.
Dad from Malcolm in the Middle, and then as he points out, there were very much similar characters between the dad from Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad. It's just that they made different life choices, and that's the key of a good actor.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I am such a John Barrowman fan. Like, I am obsessed with him. Probably got a man crush on him, but this. Oh God, when he says, where is it? I'm like, are you kidding? There's something about him in this universe where he overacts. He kind of did it in Torchwood, but not really in Dark, but something about, it's like.
To be fair, Zachary, I believe that may just be the physics of this universe, that overacting is the norm.
There you go.
I do believe that all the characters gain most of their nutrition from the scenery. And so the more they chew, the stronger they become.
Yeah. Now, can I just, for one thing, when they realize that it's the Spear of Destiny they're going after, there's a question I bet that no one asked that I think the writers completely punked up. Can you think what that question is when they're talking about the Spear of Destiny?
Does this mean that God exists?
Exactly. No, you're expecting me to believe that these time travelers, like people, are they're talking about the spear that pierced, which of course has been used in every almost any sci-fi. Like, someone usually likes to use anything that's slightly mystical has an episode with the Spear of Destiny. It's been in Hellboy, it's been in Constantine. It's like it's gonna whatever. But
it was in Penthouse Comics.
Indeed. But I'm supposed to believe not one single member, especially the one who just said he went to Sunday school, goes, wait a minute, so Jesus was real?
Well, yeah.
It's because they didn't want to approach.
Well, to be fair, I guess the argument is that, of course Jesus is real,
Oh, yeah, right.
I always assume when no one questions it. It's not like this is Indiana Jones and they just saw, Crystal Skull, where they realize that perhaps all gods are simply highly advanced alien life forms.
No, that movie does not exist. All right, in any podcast
okay, yeah, you know what? You can deny it. You know what? I do not believe in alternative facts, Zachary, and it exists just like all three prequels. They exist.
Alternative facts. There was no Indiana Jones movie after Last Crusade. Okay. Well, this is something I want to get out of all the way. I just don't know how I feel about Rory's storyline here.
I still think it's fairly good. Rory's I mean, honestly, there are moments when they almost play Rory as a character with depth, and then other moments where Rory is essentially the Hulk. Where he's just like, Rory Smash kind of character. Mm. And I don't know if that's here's what I'm going to say. If I want to say these are good writers, I will say that is an intentional device to show Rory rejecting his deeper self. That Rory has this deeper self that he's afraid to admit he has.
When we talk about overacting, I think Dominic a lot of the depth is thanks to Dominic Purcell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But,
I'm just going to say I still think Rory is the strongest character in this series at the moment. Certainly, he's stronger than anyone else. I mean,
I just when he's asking Stein just says, "Yeah, I'll help." It's like, but Stein, I think you should drive the point home. You're not a medical doctor. That is such an old joke in TV shows because you'll have it with psychiatrists, you'll have it with like the people with PhDs. It's like, yes, I understand it's a joke, but it doesn't change the fact that he's not a medical doctor.
Yeah, and more to the point, Rory isn't a moron.
Yes. That's another thing they keep doing. The whole point of him becoming Kronos was that he became smarter. They did that so they could cheat and make it so he's not just the muscle, that he can play. I mean, he wouldn't have been able to track them down as Kronos if he was a moron.
Yeah, well, and not for nothing, just because he's the muscle doesn't mean he's a moron.
Right, yeah.
But like I said, if I were to give the writers credit, I would say that is a psychological trait that Rory brings out in himself because he does want to reject this idea that he is a guy who thinks deeper than he's comfortable with.
Which is what I was hoping they were going through with this whole. I mean, it was kind of a tease where it's like, oh, it's all a device and his maybe Snart's alive, and they're like, nope, it's just in your head.
No, Snart's definitely still alive.
You still think he might be?
Oh, absolutely. No, everything that we're seeing is just a canard. Snart got his essence scattered across the time stream. So, I mean...
Yeah, but then they kind of say, oh, no, that's not how it is 2 seconds later.
Well, but really, has anyone been blown up by an Oculus before?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, this is the first time someone's been blown up by an Oculus, so exactly what the heck happens to you when you are at the center of a time explosion?
That's what I'm saying. I'm hoping they don't take too long, because they could make up anything. Like, this is a sci-fi superhero show about time travel. They could literally say anything. Like, they could say there's a Snart in every time period. Like, he got scattered, blah, blah, blah. They could make up anything. So I'm really hoping they go somewhere. They're going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
But okay, now one thing I just want to say as a side note, I went to college for acting. I did movies while I was in college. Can I go to the school where I get a full-on movie film set as part of my final project?
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, I don't know how, again, I don't know if it is different in LA, but I think that's pushing it. Even like the best schools are not going to have a set that good. And they're definitely not going to, like anyone would listen to a guy acting like a real director. Like, oh, this is terrible. But it's like, it'd be like, dude, shut up. I got a class.
Yeah, well, I mean, to some extent, I mean, there is, this isn't that as weird as it might seem. Especially if
again, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, basically, what they had, so UCLA Film School, they had all the equipment. They had all professional equipment because basically, they got it secondhand from the studios.
Probably, yeah.
So, they had.
I went to a small town college.
So, there's a reason why all of the best, all of the best directors that we know, all have that, what is it, AC-111, gag in their films because they all went to the same freaking school which was the school which had the best equipment. There's the the people, they're not black swans, they're just people that lucked into being in the right place at the right time when all of this tech was sort of given to these people to just build out the modern American film works.
okay, there's one nitpick. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
This is your 15th one nitpick, just to keep track.
I mean in this one scene. Okay, this is just okay. I am fine with the idea that Rip. Okay, he's got a piece of the Spear of Destiny, and he doesn't keep it locked. He just keeps it hidden. All right, fine. Moving on. He scatters everyone, and then he does the only thing he can do. Although, really, like he said, doesn't that mean he could have not done that if he had just scattered himself with the team? See, the only thing so he had to leave the message. Okay, whatever. But anyways, that is not even the nitpick. The nitpick is he grabs the time thing, gets scattered again. Fine, and it even affects his memories. I can live with that. Here's what I can't live with. If some guy, I don't care if it's the 60s, if some guy just walks into the college and say, hey, I go here, they're going to be like, okay, where's your social security card? Where's your thing? So what, the time thing, credentials?
So here's your headcanon on that. The Spear of Destiny has the power to rewrite reality.
Well, yes, the Spear does, but I don't think they've made any implication that that's not just, that's a piece of it. They said it's, there's more.
I know. But theoretically, it has all the pieces. They're all somewhere in 19. So okay. So if you're going to make this argument, so here is if they actually wrote themselves out of a corner, here's what we're going to find out in the ensuing episodes. He comes back to 1965. He takes his Spear of Destiny. He breaks it up. He hides pieces all over. Keeps one piece with him. Then does the brain wipe. Rewrites his own memory. Rewrites history. And leaves himself with the one piece that he keeps, and all the other pieces are scattered. Honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense in any way you want to slice it, but very little about this entire series makes a lot of sense. It is a series that has about as much contempt for its audience as I've ever seen. They really, even so let me give you an example. There's a great short film, a great comedy short film called George Lucas in Love, which is basically Shakespeare in Love. And in the same way that Shakespeare in Love has all these like meta gags about Shakespeare's plays, it's just filled with meta gags about the Star Wars films and other things that George Lucas has done over the years, including what was actually his like thesis film, which I believe it's called THX 1108, if I remember correctly. But that's where the Lucasfilm's THX comes from. That was his first major film. And so throughout that, where you're getting all these obvious gags, you also have all these little subtle gags, like the original name of the film. All of his original films are just like this random series of numbers and letters, and then you have like the Star Killer, grain price. Go look up George Lucas in Love. It's a great film. Especially if you know anything of Star Wars backstage lore. Because it's just all this nerd canon that they give you. In this, we get literally no nerd canon. The closest we get is a trash compactor scene.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. And he even tries to and I have a problem with that when we get to it.
Well, honestly, the level of problems with the whole George Lucas inspired us, and so...
Okay, well, here's the thing I have to say about that. I like the idea that something as simple as not seeing a movie, like it makes Rey not an inventor, and makes steel not steel. Because I think, the thing I think about is, if I had never picked up a comic book, if I'd never seen a cartoon, or have never read a Sherlock Holmes story, I would be a different person. Well, yeah, I can believe that.
Well, no, because here's the thing. Had you never picked up a comic book, you still would have read a Sherlock Holmes film. Or read a Sherlock Holmes film.
I'm saying each example.
Well, yeah, like, but each example, but that's the thing, is like anyone, so for example, if I had never picked up a Fantastic Four comic book in that dentist's office years ago, I still would have seen a lot of sci-fi movies and TV show. I might have just read a lot more sci-fi. Because of course the part of me that likes that sci-fi is in me, and I'm still going to be inspired towards it. The part of, often what it is to say, oh, this thing inspired me to be this, it's like, no. You had the inspiration to be this. This was the thing that this is maybe something that codified it for you. But that potential was likely always there, and you likely always gravitated. It's not like before they saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, they were just into yoga.
Right, yeah, I do give you that. Like, I could believe something else. I mean, yeah, it could be. I can give you that. Maybe it shouldn't be that they're completely like. No. Well, that's why I could buy Ray becoming a doctor. I'm like, okay, he still becomes someone he becomes a genius doctor. I can buy that, but he becomes a yoga instructor. How do you? That's a complete physicist to doctor. I can see that because that's still science. Medicine is still science. But like maybe he saw, I don't know, he saw MASH and said, "Oh, I want to heal people instead." Yeah. But he doesn't see Raiders, and he becomes that was no.
Palmer was Star Wars. Steele. I keep on forgetting what Steele's name is. He's the one.
Me too. That's why I call him Steele.
Yeah. He becomes the historian, even though the character in it isn't a historian. He's an archaeologist.
Well, they could argue that's similar, but
okay. Although maybe that's kind of a gag in there too, is that actually the films that wind up getting made after this event are not the films they originally saw.
Okay, but here's another thing, and this is kind of along the lines of saying what you said about things would still happen. Okay, we could argue about we could spend the whole podcast just arguing about George Lucas, because here's the thing: there are two schools of thought in George Lucas, even among people who are fans. Like, I like Star Wars, but here's the thing: those movies probably would have still happened even without Lucas. He can say he wrote Star Wars all he wants, but most people believe, like, the things we know now, know that most of what he wrote was what stunk about Star Wars, and most of what people love about Star Wars was stuff he almost didn't want to put, like the studio made him put in. That's the story I've heard. Like, influential.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, here's what you can say about Star Wars. Lucas had early drafts of Star Wars that were very different, that actually might have been better films.
Well, that's something we could,
Yeah, I mean, that's an argument. He was much more reliant on the original Akira Kurosawa's Lost Empire film as his inspiration in his original ones. That's why you had the older Han Solo and the Wookiees were the bad guys, I believe, and things like that. What it evolved into, probably did have it was some smart co-writer at the studio who was sitting there tutelizing him through. And, one example I like to think about is if you've ever seen Extras, and Ricky Gervais's character gets the chance to make his BBC sitcom, and you think, oh, he's going to make The Office. But then the guy that they assign him with, he's a traditional writer at the BBC, and so they do a lot of Mrs. Slocum's pussy jokes, which of course makes it a huge hit. And so what you have is this guy who's got this great idea, but then you have someone who says, yeah, let me tell you how you make that into a huge hit, and you get Star Wars. And I think that that's entirely a possibility. Now, the fact of the matter is that without that guy coming in saying, well, here's my idea, the guy who comes in and does all the studio work to make it a hit, he's not he might make something else a hit, but he's not going to make Star Wars a hit. So I can see that idea that Star Wars does have this inspiration.
I do see that. So, because there is, I'm not going to say too much about it, but there was an idea I came up with in college. It was a very raw idea, and my college roommate took it and turned it into something I never would have anticipated. And because I'm a very much raw ideas guy, but anyway, I just thought of something as we're talking. Shouldn't Rip even being there cause aberrations?
Zach, if we really want to get him on aberrations at this point, we're watching the wrong show. I mean, they're murdering people left and right. They're everything. They're murdering and creating people. It's like everything is an aberration. No aspect. There was a great bit in the current Mighty Avengers arc over on over in Marvel Comics, where they have this character called Kang the Conqueror, and
I know about Kang.
Yeah, Vision decides he's going to basically kidnap Kang as a baby so he never becomes Kang.
Yeah, that's debate. That every time travel show has made that debate.
Yeah, but and so he's doing this, and he's being like pursued by basically what we'll see next episode, sort of the Time Spectre. And he's like, "Well, are you trying to stop me?" And the Time Spectre's like, "No, I'm just here." And he says, "Well, isn't it going to cause paradoxes if I take Kang?" And the Time Spectre basically says, "Kang is a time traveler. Everything he does is a paradox. His entire existence is a swirl of paradox. If you remove him from the time stream, yeah, it's going to cause paradoxes, but not more than just Kang existing himself is causing paradoxes." So basically, once you have people moving back and forth through time,
true, yeah.
Time is like being torn all to heck. And what you have is like the only paradoxes they care about are the ones that cause significant damage.
Well, like we lost the guy who created the carburetor for Shovelhead, but that wasn't a big aberration.
Well, exactly. Because somebody else created that, and the reason why is because somebody else. So, like, if you kill a famous, it's like this: if you went back in time and killed Einstein, almost nothing would be different because Einstein wasn't the only guy working on that.
Right. Oh, actually, another great example I got two examples for this. One of them, if you can believe it, one of them's going to be from Fairly Odd Parents. But he uses a wish to time travel and screws up history. And like, oh, we don't have electricity. It's like, while it's true we would have different stuff if certain people weren't around, not every invention would just be like, nope. But the other, actually, I think of a better one. There was a Fantastic Four story where they talked about time, because Fantastic Four is all about alternate timelines and their past and present and future. They had one where they talked about, like, let's say Lincoln was meant to die. If you went back, what actually happened was the president slipped in the bathtub and cracked his head. Someone went back in time and changed that, and that's what, but time fixed itself to be Ford's theater. And it's true. It's like, well, they always like this. I like how they say time wants to happen unless the plot says it shouldn't. But I know it's a weird thing to focus on. Just like Rip getting scattered. What, did he have like a social security number with him? Like,
well, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the idea is that he somehow and first off, as any fan of the Hulk will know, back in the 1970s and the 60s, you could be a lonely drifter and no one really checked. You didn't have computers. True. So, like, you wrote down my social security number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8.
That's true. Okay, yeah, that's true.
If it was 7, that'd be obvious. But
it's funny because you talked about Marvel Comics. I made a note of this. We have a DC hero saying to George Lucas, "You're our only hope." It's like, by the way, Lucas, Star Wars is going to be owned by the same people who own Marvel Comics.
Well, yeah, I mean, Star Wars has gone through a lot of hands over the years. Although their first comics actually were through Marvel, and then
everything's been Marvel at one point, even the Transformers.
Oh yeah,
and G.I. Joe.
And generally speaking, what you find is like all of the best canon for them, the canon they keep on going back to, is all from the Marvel era. Yeah. And then when they go over to some other person, it's like, we're not going to.
Can we talk about the fact that there's absolutely no reason not to bring Firestorm in the final battle?
There's never any reason not to have Firestorm in anything. I mean, it's like I say, Firestorm is a Superman pastiche within DC
pretty much
Comics.
Is.
He is a Superman character. He is a character like Martian Manhunter that you use when, oh no, we can't use Superman in this story. Okay, well, who can we use who is a Superman type character? So, well, we can use Martian Manhunter, we can use Firestorm, we can use Shazam. You've got all these other characters that are basically there for that purpose.
Right.
And when you put a character like that on your team, you almost always immediately find yourself saying, well, why aren't we using this? Why aren't we using the big gun? And there's never a good reason not to use the big gun.
Right.
Except for the fact that the one thing you can say about Firestorm is he's a guy who is not subtle. Like when he's Firestorm, his head is literally on fire. So it's not like he can be wearing his Clark Kent clothes and just go and bend steel when no one's looking. So Firestorm is a little obvious. Still don't know where his costume comes from, though.
Yeah, that there. I mean, I'll give you. Okay. Another thing I got focus on like continuity and stuff, but it's like you would think. So Lucas seeing all of this doesn't affect the time. Like he sees a man turn to steal from a flying robot suit. He's like, I made a movie called Iron Man in the 19. But,
well, I mean, for what, I was actually, that was actually one of the things I was thinking is like, okay, so did the movies that these guys had originally seen, are these the movies they've seen now?
Right.
Because as an example, that trash compactor scene probably wasn't in the original Star Wars.
Well, actually, you know what? Doctor Who addressed this, I believe, last season, which it was that weird ghost episode. It's not one of my favorites, but he says that a time traveler goes back in time because he's a huge fan of Beethoven. It's like a time traveler's riddle or something. But when he gets there, no one's ever heard of Beethoven. But the guy remembers Beethoven's song, so he becomes Beethoven. But the question becomes then, where did the original music come from?
Yeah.
Like, and that's along those lines. And another thing,
they did that in Star Trek 3, The Voyage Home, too.
About we talked about again. I didn't finish this point earlier, but Stein doing. I always hate and stuff when they're trying to get a character who has never done anything. Like Stein should not be. I don't care if he has Gideon's help. He's not. I mean, a psychiatrist has medical training. I can buy a psychiatrist being able to like patch up a wound or something. They do that in Scorpion. Their psychiatrist doesn't, because a psychiatrist would have medical knowledge.
Yeah, he is an
MD.
MD.
Physicist would not. Like, he's actually doing brain surgery. It's like, no, this is not a brush away thing. You know what show actually addressed this really good, I think? BBC brought back Robin Hood, this was years ago, but there's this great scene where this one character is like, oh, we need to give him this medicine. It's okay. My father was a doctor. And this other character goes, my father was a blacksmith. Doesn't mean I know how to do a horseshoe.
Yes. Well, although, for what it's worth, actually, if you lived in the Middle Ages, if your father was a blacksmith, he probably taught you how to make a horseshoe. So
yeah, that's true. But the point's still about it's. We talked about the trash compactor. Here's something I think needs to be addressed. So they're trying to motivate them to find the spear faster. The spear is in the trash, and it's made of wood. I'm pretty sure, even though it's mystical or whatever it is, a trash compactor is not your best first option. They had no idea where it was. It would have been great if they said, let's turn on the trash, but they press the button, suddenly you just hear snap. It's like, uh-oh.
Well, you can argue that because it's a mystical item, it is by its nature indestructible. You know, if you ever watch the old Friday the 13th series, you get that a lot, where the items cursed by the devil could not be destroyed because they were effectively indestructible because they were magical. So yeah, I mean, this is blessed by the blood of Jesus, arguably. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to be, what would be funny is like, the Spear of Destiny is like this little old wooden spear, but it's what, tears up the trash compactor,
Yeah,
that,
right.
That works within that concept. But again, I don't think these writers think that deeply. I don't think, honestly, I have never seen writers more interested in getting the script done and getting out by 5. Honestly,
that was one of the biggest problems season 1 had.
These guys are definitely alcoholics, because they definitely want that happy hour special. And yeah, there is like I said, there is this contempt of the fans, because even when they do fan service, it is almost anti-fan service. It is almost anti, I reviewed The Incredible Hulk over on the 80s Reboot podcast, and, we talked there about how there really is this anti-fan service going on there, because the guys who made the film didn't really want to do a superhero show.
You mean the original show?
Yeah, the original Incredible Hulk TV show.
You know what's another great example of that? The Punisher Warzone movie, which, as much as I liked parts of it, was a train wreck.
Oh,
there was one.
Okay, yeah, it has its bad scenes, but for what it's worth, I thought that Jigsaw was a pretty good character.
Well, no, it's just, I know it was too good. And let me tell you the reason I bring it up. I read somewhere that the director said she went out of her way to keep she wanted to not even have the skull symbol. And that's something that a lot of comic book writers and directors, luckily it happens way less.
Are you talking about Warzone, or are you talking, which Punisher?
That was the sequel. With Jigsaw. That was the one with Jigsaw.
The one with Jigsaw was the one with, what was his name? Ray Stevens?
Yeah. And
he went on to play Volstagg, I believe.
Exactly. Let's talk about Volstagg. Volstagg is supposed to be this big, cool, chubby guy, and they made him this buff. It's like that. When I saw that, I'm like, as much as I like the actor, I'm like, that's not Volstagg.
No, but that's okay. He's not as fat as he is in the comic books, but to be honest, as fat as he is in the comic books is a physical impossibility.
Okay, yeah, that fat, but hey, I could play Volstagg. I'm chubby. I have a beard. I could have done it.
I'm sure you could. And if you had, honestly, if you had been a famous actor, if you had gone to L.A. and you were the noted fat guy actor, they might have given it to you. As it is, they went with Ray Stevens and they just put him in a fat suit. And it is a fat suit.
But my point about this is, and luckily this happens less and less with comic book movies as they get more respect. It's so many people seem to get a comic book movie and they don't want to be in. They don't want to be in it. They don't want to be attached to it. So they just, like you said, they just bang out the script and leave.
Yeah, and that's how these guys are. These guys really.
I go with you on that. Yeah.
They don't care about time travel. They're doing a time travel show where they don't care about history or time travel. They don't have any, and I don't think they've even honestly. I would not be surprised if their show Bible is a Trapper Keeper. It's like
in crayon.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go. No, I'm just saying I don't think they have a lot in their show Bible. I think that they kind of say, we're doing it. It's sci-fi. It's out there.
We have spent this whole episode just bitching about the episode. Okay, let's try to. Okay, I did did you notice they had the Wilhelm scream?
Oh, you know what? I always hear about the Wilhelm scream. Everyone says, "Oh," and they use the Wilhelm scream, and I'm like, okay,
That's that yell that goes. Ah!
Yeah. I know what it is, and of what it is. I couldn't pick it out of a crowd.
I could every time. It's during the final fight scene when they throw one of the guys, and I'm hoping they have it. I bet one thing that will really make me mad, and I'm going to bring it up. If they don't bring it up, I'm going to bring it up at the end of the season. If they don't. There better be a reason that, like, again, actually, we talked about Firestorm. Reverse Flash is like the bad guy's Firestorm because really no one on the team could beat him.
Yeah.
And like, I'm hoping.
I think that, for what it's worth, because I have seen the next episode. Because we are recording this late, because I didn't know they moved to Tuesdays, and so it took me a while to actually.
I know that it screwed us all up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I'm hoping, because I remember the last episode they had him. He was gonna kill Vixen, and for some reason, I'm hoping there's like. Well, I haven't seen it yet, so we'll see what they say. But we've spent so much time that let's do our final thoughts on the episode itself. I didn't. Okay, obviously, there's a lot I had a problem with, but it wasn't that I hated it. It's just very forgettable. I took away absolutely nothing from this episode.
See, I will say that I can never unsee this episode, and it will
Really?
carry with me forever.
I'll forget about it as soon as we finish recording. It had no effect on me.
I forget about all these episodes soon after. Even shows I like. And actually, I still enjoy this show. What I'll say about this episode is, it is no worse than every other episode, but that is not necessarily a compliment. It is an episode that has no concept of continuity or story or character, but there's some nice action adventure. There's a character who's supposed to be George Lucas in it for some reason, and here's what I'll say. Watching this episode, then the next episode right after each other, I can say that, okay, that's, they flow very nicely to each other. And, and it's one of these things where I think maybe Legends is the kind of show that really should be binge watched.
Yeah.
Because I think that all of the flaws would be
like
overlooked if you were watching them one after another after another.
I felt the Luke Cage show was like that. I didn't really I wouldn't have liked doing a episode by episode, just as a whole, it's a great show. Actually, there's something I wanted to mention. I remember the scene where and it's funny because I was at a convention and Casper Crump was like a foot away from me, and I almost want to go up to him and go, "Excuse me, sir, I'm sure you're a fine actor, but that was one of the worst villains I've ever seen." And when there's that scene where he's giving me nothing, he's not intimidating, and I want to go, so he's just like the original Vandal Savage.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. Like I said, that's why I said this. The subtitle to this episode is "We Didn't Like Season 1 Either," because that was such a slam on their first Vandal Savage.
Well, it's really stupid of a slam because the guy was acting exactly like Casper Crump was.
And that's the point. I mean, that's the point, is they understood that and maybe that was their, as close as they get to actual fan service, is saying, yeah, we heard you.
That's not even really fan service, because when you say, we heard you, and then do the same thing over again, there you go. I'm reminded of when the God of War games came out. There was a level in the first God of War game that every fan said they hated, and the game designers were like, "Okay, we hear you. We're not doing that again." But like this, I don't know. We're spending too much time. We should wrap up. But
okay.
I found, like, I think the episode was kind of forgettable. I can't really pick anything that I was like, ooh, because a lot of Legends episodes I can be like, I like this thing I took away, but this, it was like, the character, there was nothing for character. Story was all over the place. So many nitpicks. But here's the thing that makes it even worse. I can't even say it's a bad episode. It's just forgettable for me. So I can't even say, oh, this is terrible. It's just like, I don't care. I'm podcasting for it. You go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not the worst episode I've ever seen, but honestly, I have not yet seen the best episode, so it is right there in the meaty middle. It is a tale. It is sound and fury amounting to nothing. And the idea that, wouldn't it be funny if Rip went back in time and was a film student? Because not for nothing, how old is Rip? Is he really film student age?
That's my other thing about him coming back and just how old is that actor,
Yeah, because he's got a wife and kid. I mean, who knows? Who knows in Hollywood?
Do not know what happened to.
Yeah. Well, they're off in the time stream. Maybe, I guess they're, I don't know. I mean, who even knows what happens to Rip in his life? I mean, all I'm waiting for is Booster Gold.
Yes, me too. Oh, no, actually, no, because he's a DC favorite of mine. They're going to screw him up. So, anyways.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to say that Lily Stein is meant to be, in her own way, Booster Gold's sister, that they eventually reveal is, like, somehow, because in like the last Booster Gold series I read, which is actually was actually pretty cool, they kind of reveal that Rip Hunter is actually descendant of Booster Gold.
Oh yeah, no.
Although they kind of also implied that Booster Gold, like, that he's actually, like, that Booster Gold and his sister actually kind of.
Okay, listen. If you start talking about DC continuity from the comics, we'll be here all night.
Yes. So never mind that. But anyway,
how can people find you on social media, Charles?
Oh well, I actually did live tweet this last episode of Legends of Tomorrow when I knew it was on, and I was watching it live. It was fun. Till I fell asleep, but that's okay. That happens. You can follow me on Twitter at CharlieEsser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. And of course, write to me in an old-fashioned email way, the way our Maz and Paz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com.
And me, of course, can find me connected on Facebook on so many levels. And, of course, that's in the Southgate Media shows I do. And you can always find me on Twitter, InchFromSanity, or Wolf00. And so we're going to... sorry for the delay, folks, but we did not realize about the change in scheduling, which, by the way, is another nitpick. It's a stupid idea, because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday actually made sense with Heroes Cousin. But anyways, it's time for us to go, because it's time for us to get lost in the time stream. Maybe we'll go back to the 60s, and we will remake something spectacular, because I want to direct.